So as you can see, we're jumping to section 3.1, absolute value and adding integers. All right, so let's first talk about the integers and how we're going to use them. When solving for equations, we're going to need to do opposites. So we're going to talk about opposites first. And in math and algebra, we call this additive inverses, same as opposites. And when we add the opposites, it's going to equal 0. So for instance, the opposite of 23 is negative 23. The opposite of negative 52 is positive 52. And when I add the opposites of those numbers, of those integers, I get 0. All right, so what we're going to use that for later is by adding the opposites of those numbers, we're going to be able to cancel out and then solve for our x later on. That's going to be in a couple sections. So I know I'm going kind of fast, so what I want you to do is I want you to pause and write down what you need to. Listen when you can listen, all right? But don't worry about having to do this so fast, okay? Absolute values. You can pause it, you can fast forward, you can rewind. Just always remember that. So absolute values. We call absolute values the number, how far away a number is from 0. All right? So it's always positive or just 0. So the absolute value of 0 is 0. And when I'm talking about the distance from 0, like let's look at negative 3, for example. The distance negative 3 is from 0 is 3 units away. So the absolute value, and here's my bars for absolute value, it's these bars, these brackets on either side of the number. That means absolute value, or how far away from 0 is that number. So negative 3 is 3 units away from 0 to the left. So my answer will be a positive 3. How far away from 0? That's absolute value. So the absolute value of positive 23 is 23 units to the right. Right? The absolute value of negative 720 is just 720. And 0 is 0 units away from 0. All right? So that's your absolute value. So opposites, absolute values, not too difficult, not too hard. All right? Now, I want you to be careful. If there's a negative on the outside, that negative still stays. So the absolute value of negative 12 is 12. But if there's negatives on the outside, that still stays with your answer. All right? So that's where I want you to be careful. It's only in the inside that whatever the number is on the inside, that's always going to be positive. But if there's a negative on the outside, that needs to stay. So be careful of that. All right? So now what we're going to look at is adding integers. All right? So what I want you to do is pause. Make sure you have everything, and then play to continue on. Alright, so when you're adding integers, we're looking for like signs. So if you have like signs in between your integers, they're both going to be positive or both negative. This will come more clear as we look at some of the examples. Add the absolute value of both integers. Alright, so what we can do, our first step is we're going to look at the absolute value of both integers first. We'll add that, and then we're going to figure out the sign of them second. Use the sign common to both integers. Alright? So let's go ahead and have you just write this down, for example. The sum of a positive and a positive is positive. So if I add a positive number and a positive number, my answer is going to be positive. The sum of a negative number and a negative is also going to be negative. So if I'm adding two negative numbers, all right, if I add two negative numbers, my answer is going to be more negative. Okay? And then different signs. So one's positive, one's negative. This is what we do. All right? subtract the absolute values of both integers. Alright? So we got the absolute of 9 and negative 6. So we got 9 minus 6. Use the sign of the integer with the greatest absolute value. So what's the difference between 9 and 6? 3. Alright, which one's bigger? 9 or negative 6? Well, the 9's the bigger number, so 9's positive. Our answer is going to be positive. Alright, so you're thinking to yourself, what? What? So let's try this again. The absolute value, we're going to subtract between 9 and 6. So 9 minus 6. What's the difference? How many spaces away is 9 and 6? Well, they're 3 away. So 9 minus 6 is 3. Which one's bigger, 9 or 6? Well, 9's bigger. Right? So my answer is going to be positive. So the bigger one, whatever the sign of the bigger one is, that's the sign of our answer. Alright? So if the signs are different, we're subtracting. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is when the signs are different in the middle, between the two integers, when the signs are different, I just like to put a big subtraction. Alright? And then I look which one is the bigger one. Well, 9's the bigger one, so I'm going to use that sign. Alright, so in the next video, we're just going to look at some more practice and more examples. We're going to use number lines. But these are some rules that might help you. You might learn by looking at some of the other methods I'm going to show you in the next video. Okay? So if that didn't make sense, hold on. We'll show you some other ways. Okay? It'll click, I promise.